The story of the Canadian Naval Reserve, lest we forget the contributions and sacrifices of our citizen soldiers. Giving birth to the Royal Canadian Navy, the Liberal government of Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier was responsible for the Naval Service Act of 1910. The Navy that emerged was a collection of ramshackle, hand-me-down vessels from the British Navy and a group of 695 men, mostly untrained and with little experience. With the advent of the First World War, the RCN would contribute little to the actual in-theater war effort. They did mount an astonishing number of converted commercial and private vessels that patrolled Canada's eastern coast. The Naval Reserve was created due to a massive demobilization after the First World War, when Commodore Walter Hose recommended the creation of a Naval Volunteer Reserve. On January 31st, 1923, an order in council establishing the RCNVR was signed, and the first commission was given on March 14th to Lieutenant Frank Meade, establishing a half company in Montreal, shortly after they moved into a small facility on Sherbrooke Street. These original facilities near McGill were deemed too small, and the Navy acquired a larger building on Mountain Street from the Bell Telephone Company. This would remain the primary unit during the majority of the Second World War. With the onset of World War II, many Montrealers continued with their daily lives. But the Naval Reserve was about to come into its own.
This is a story of the Battle of the Atlantic, a story of an ocean, 2 ships, and a handful of men. The men are the heroes. The heroines are the ships. The only villain is the sea, the cruel sea, that man has made more cruel.
The pre-war Canadian naval forces numbered less than 5,000 men and a handful of obsolete ships. The true power of the Naval Reserves was its ability to mobilize and train men. The crucial Battle of the Atlantic was won by civilian volunteers passing through reserve units like Montreal. By the end of the war, Canadian Navy had expanded to 100,000 men and the third largest navy in the world. During the Battle of the Atlantic, Canadian forces were credited with the destruction of 33 German U-boats. Often serving on vessels like the HMCS Sackville, Flower-class corvettes produced quickly and cheaply and lacking in much. It was said that they would roll in a gentle breeze. During the war years, the Montreal Naval Reserve Unit also managed to field a football team that won the Grey Cup in 1944. In the aftermath of World War II, general demobilization took hold once again. A series of somewhat rash and destructive cuts were made to naval budgets. The Naval Reserve lost most of its funding. Restructuring also brought about a name change in Montreal. The unit became HMCS Donnacona in honor of the original native chief on the island of Montreal when it was discovered. A new building was also acquired. The old Montreal Winter Club on Drummond Street was modified to Navy specs. Sailors continued to attend regular evening trainings, but budget cuts shrank their numbers. Most that remained or joined at this point did so for the social aspect, to remain close to old friends from the war or make new connections. As is the case today, business and political interests often cross with naval traditions and celebration, offering excellent networking for members. In recent years, the Naval Reserve has seen a resurgence in investment and operational capabilities. With the regular forces stretched, the government looks to the reserves as a cost-efficient alternative. In 1997, the Naval Reserves were mobilized to aid the flood-stricken residents in Manitoba along the Red River. Today, the Naval Reserves maintain 3 port security units across Canada and is presently in preparation for the Olympic Games in Vancouver. They also man 12 maritime coastal defense vessels and are often tasked to patrol our coastal waters, including the Arctic, provide search and rescue services, as well as fishery and drug patrols, and participate in international military exercises.
Cities rise before me, then behind me sink again. This tardiest explorer driving hard across the plain.